Hey, what's up? Gazbot here. Before you get into the show, just a reminder that we have a new dedicated Action Activate channel that I'd like you to go check out and subscribe to because we're going to start to phase content out of the Gazbot channel. Right now, things are going up there first. So watching this video hours, days after the first was up there, whatever, go over there, subscribe, please. And you won't have to see these dumb commercials, and you won't, and you'll get things sooner and maybe more stuff. Yes. Okay. Whatever. Link below at the end of the video as well. It's just Action Activate.
Hey, what's up, guys? Colin K. Batts from the Power Rangers Extended Universe, and you're watching Action Activate. Omega Access, SPD Emergency.
Hi, it is I, the Big Dog, and we are here for Action Activate on our brand new Action Activate dedicated channel right up top. Thank you to all 27 of you who have successfully migrated over, and to those who haven't, please subscribe. We are doing this for you guys, but also for us. I am the Big Dog, and with me, as always, is
Gazbot. How you doing?
And today we're talking about Dino Fury Episode 10. Finders Keepers, which makes us the losers weepers after viewing, unfortunately.
Wow, coming on harsh and strong in the beginning. Good job picking that up. I threw him in there without telling. Before we get into it, this is the new channel, unless you're watching it on the old channel, which we're going to keep going for. When we hit 100 subscribers, we're going to do a giveaway. I have not said what the giveaway is yet. It will be Power Rangers related, obviously. Maybe when we hit 50, 75, I'll announce what it is. But you need to be subscribed on the new Action Activate channel, not the Gazbot channel. You're not eligible if you're only on the Gazbot channel. Anyway, so getting back into the new episode, well, new to us anyway.
Yeah.
What's your initial thoughts, I guess? But although I think you kind of already said them.
Bad. This is like every
bad.
To me, 90% of this episode was what you do of like, what is things you dislike in Power Rangers? And it was just crammed into this.
It's funny because very often we talk before the show and after the show, and you're like, yeah, you know, we're kind of hanging out and like, maybe we don't want to talk this episode. We're just going to get on there and be like, it's terrible. We're both going to just be like, it's terrible for 15 minutes. And I was like, yeah, well, you know, I usually don't think it's as bad as you do and everything. And I don't think it's as bad as you do because I wouldn't sum it up by like bad. But I will say it was disappointing like I thought it would be after the buildup from last week. I kind of expected it. And then I'll further say that if I was grading it on the first 10 minutes, I would say it was like a D. But the second half was better.
Yes.
No, that the grade does come up. But what you're saying about everything being like the whole first half was just not something I wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And especially this late in the second season.
That's
what are
what
we
it is.
doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Still in time, apparently.
Maybe I am as revved up as you are.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like I said, like if you look at this objectively as like if you randomly picked this out of a hat, you'd say it wasn't great. If you're looking at it as, you know, almost if not halfway through the final season of this series, it's bad. It's just bad.
Also, yeah, because there's like weird filler and like a fifth time of character development for Ion being like kind of a doof and once again learning his lesson. And I mean, it's nice that he learned his lesson and you know, spoilers, Pop-Pop. I liked Pop-Pop coming in and he was nice to Pop-Up, but it's like this is some of the best Ion stuff and we've already done it and I don't care anymore about this. I also don't understand how someone who doesn't understand jokes or anything about Earth, and this is something I come back to all the time, is as good of a downhill mountain bike rider doing like wheelies and flips and all the crazy stuff they're doing as someone who is like a semi-professional athlete on Earth. And he's like just as good as her. It makes no sense.
Yeah, the thing that upset me more about Ion, because you already know I just don't care anymore. is they just made Izzy terrible for the sake of being terrible.
Yeah.
She was like caricaturely bad.
I will say that, yes, they made her worse than she ever is, because typically she's like pretty solid. But even in that context, I was still on her side. He was like, he rammed into her, might have been an accident, fair enough. But he rammed into her, she broke her bike, could have got really hurt. And he wasn't like, geez, because if I did that to you, let's say, and you were mad at me, I wouldn't be like, hey man, it wasn't my fault. I'd be like, look, I'm really sorry. I promise I didn't mean to do it. Oh my God, your bike. Oh, holy crap. Are you okay? And he's just sort of like worried about being like, it wasn't my fault. Like that was his whole thing. There was no sympathy, no apology, which seemed weird, you know, like,
Yeah.
and if
they're like, look, treasure.
Yes. And then she's like, well, I'm going to keep this myself. So she was being a bit of a jerk, but he just ran her off the road and didn't really apologize. And then he's like, oh, let me have some of this cool stuff you found. And she's like, I thought she was going to say the line. She didn't. But she's like, I found it. And I thought she was going to say, by crashing into it because you ran me off the road, which is like the subtext to me. So yes, she was being a little bit of a jerk, but it's like, she's allowed to be in that situation a little bit, you know?
I think everything before they found those crates, like, semi made sense. And then they find these, and then it's just like, hey, we need two toddlers bickering, and we don't have them. So we're going to put these Power Rangers in instead, one of which is a giant toddler. The other one is a character we've developed and has matured a lot that we're just going to regress back to, like, her being a toddler, I guess.
I don't think they even regressed it. It just didn't match her character up to this point. Although, again, going back to my like making excuses for her, like I understand where she's coming from. Maybe she's just sick of Ion. Maybe she's like, you just wreck everything and you're selfish and like I don't, you know, if it was maybe it was another person, she wouldn't have been this way. But maybe it was just like I'm tired of dealing with you.
I don't know who isn't. He finds a bunch of cash, which you're like, I guess. The other thing is like, obviously this says Area 62. We know that's a thing in here, but like they don't explain this or the caller very well.
No, I mean, it seems like they dealt with alien stuff. So maybe they found that alien collar. But the money, and also it's just like this has been here for decades, and people ride their bikes down this trail, and no one has ever been like, "Hey, look, an old truck, let's check it out." This is stuff I could let slide, though. This is all stuff I could let slide because it's sort of like plot contrivances that involve props and stuff as opposed to character. You know what I mean? Like,
I love how all of those are $10 bills, by the way, so they actually got U.S. cash.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's funny. Well, or
like,
no,
we need
actually,
like $300.
It's probably prop money because I think you're not allowed to use real cash on movie sets. I think it has to be fake money.
Why they chose $10, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's all they had available. I do like that Mucus out of nowhere is like, "Hey, I'm going to put this on." I wanted to see if this was something we could see. It looked to me there was another box in there when he took his. Okay, let's see. So he takes that one. Is there another one there? Maybe not. Okay, no. Maybe not. But yeah, it is also ridiculous because even if they were fighting, it's clear like, okay, I found a pile of garbage. You just found, $10,000 or whatever this is based on what he spends later. You're not going to share that at all. Like that is like
even if he smarmily was like, fine, I'll get you a new bike and all this is mine. And then you can't ask me for anything else ever again. I'd be like, all right.
Something. Yeah. But I do like how Mucus finds the thing and immediately puts it on. And I wish Mucus was the giant monster of the week because I think that'd be very funny. And then she's like immediately bumps into the electric wires and she starts arguing with the birds. Like it was very amusing. I really like that scene.
Mucus reminded me there very much of like Jar Jar Binks in the Clone Wars series where it's like,
oh, the Clone Wars series. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Where it's like, oh, you kind of like solve all this stuff when you don't mean to and nobody takes you seriously, but like you also were a very big deal in a lot of key plot points.
Right. And so they're arguing and everyone else is just like, let's just watch them argue.
Kind of, yeah.
And she's like, and again, it's like they're both kind of being jerks, but partially because of the circumstances, I'm more on her side, and partially because for the entire show, she's been a reasonable, dependable person, and he's been a pain in the butt. So it's like, even if they're equally to blame, I'm still on her side in this, like
just cemented this episode also through like 3 lines. Who is second in command? Javi, 0 question.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So he goes around, he's buying all this stuff, but you see him not really being thrilled with it. And then Mucus comes in with the collar. And I also like the Mucus. I can almost see Mucus rebelling or revolting at some point if she like, because she's kind of a dope, but like she's just like, I'm just trying to be happy here. I can't even use the thing. Like you were saying, like I'm doing all the good stuff and nobody cares. And
Yeah. The control that Void Queen has over Sporix and like knowing what they are, saying that she was the mother of Sporix, I thought was an interesting little thing they added.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was just like an offhand comment, like the way she's deciding to conduct herself, or if it is something like the host was like tainted by the Spork's energy and is like not actually Void Knight's wife, but like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
something like that. But
that would be great. That would be great if that's what that was.
This also showed like, and granted, a lot of this is because of the Sentai footage of like, we have these really cool generals who kind of don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we got. Did they show the new monster yet? Let me see.
Not yet. No.
Okay, they didn't. But then we go back to Ranger Base and like a tiny little bit of Ollie and Amelia, getting along, being buddy buddies again.
Yeah. See the flirting commence. That's going to happen by the end of the season.
Yeah. And then they're trying to call Ion because they need his help to make the. Oh no, that's Laser. Sorry, they're trying to get in touch with him, and he took off his communicator because he's shopping. I'm never a big fan of the took off the communicator trope, but sometimes like in Beast Morphers, I think it was a thing where he took it off because he was at a car wash and didn't want to get it wet or something. So it's like, okay, it's a thin pretense, but it's just like he was shopping, so he put it in his bag. Like that's just ridiculously.
Yeah, I'm with you where that was kind of the only instance I can think of outside of like, this is clearly a morpher that I can't show people, so I have to hide it because I'm doing this thing with other people.
Right. But it's like, it looks like a watch. And in this day and age, a technological watch is like, if anything, like, oh, is that the new iPhone watch? Or like nobody would think anything of it.
Yeah, that I totally get. Ion being the worst, got it. Everybody morphs. So what did you think of this monster?
I loved it.
I did too. You know what it reminded me of?
The one that was earlier in the season that it was like.
No. First of all, it looks like an Ultraman kaiju.
Yeah, Ultraman or Gridman, absolutely.
So this looks like the like love child of Space Godzilla and Gigan.
I could kind of see that. Hold on. I'm trying to get a good shot of it, but I don't want to get the copyright protection here. I'm off to New York.
And maybe Destroya.
A little bit, but but saying how it is an Ultra Kaiju, absolutely. Or Ultraman or Gridman, more modern style too, like 90s and up.
The one thing I liked about the Zord sequences in this is they're like, hey, we actually have some pretty strong Zords that we've accrued over this like season and a half.
Right. I still like the Terra Freeze best.
I wouldn't say,
and I have seen a figure of that in Target recently too. Ooh. It's a little bit small and like I didn't love it compared to the Japanese one, and I have the Japanese main Zord, so that's why I didn't get it. But I have seen it in stores to give credit. It's out there.
I like it. I still think I like the Mosa. I think the second best. I like the T-Rex the best. Mosa second, and then that third. Not because it's bad in any way. It's just I like the T-Rex the best.
They're good Zords this season.
Yeah. Overall, Zords are very good. Everybody gets wrecked. We're gonna have to find.
It came in starting off big, which was cool.
Yes.
We need these.
Oh yeah, that was a thing they didn't expect. We need some MacGuffin to beat it, and
we do the regular Ultra Zord.
Yeah,
I like the way this monster looks. I like the electricity power. I even like the voice that kind of doesn't match what you think coming from it, but it's this. I like all the fighting Zord kaiju footage this episode. Up until they create the primal Ultra Zord, I like it a lot. I like the angles. I like the formation. I like the monster. It all works for me.
I don't like that this is called an Ultra Zord.
I understand. That's something you've said before, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of monster fights, like we haven't had one for an episode or two. I'm like, well, this is a good one to come back on.
No, 100%. I just wanted to make that point now before we go to the primal Ultra Zord later.
Right. Which is the actual Ultra Zord in your mind. And
yes.
Fair enough. There was a joke somewhere in here that I totally forget that was a good one.
Oh, Mucus makes a great one.
What was it?
Where it was like, oh, use this collar. It'll turn you super mega ultra like size. And
that is a good one. But that's not the one I'm thinking of. I can't remember now.
I don't remember this one, but that one stuck out to me. I'm like, thank you, whoever put that line in. That was clearly not from who wrote this episode, and it was a different person.
Yeah, no, that was very good.
I don't remember here.
On and pop up sort of like, oh, you're not enjoying buying things? And he's like, yeah, it's not making me happy. And he's like, how about I teach you disco? And he's like, you know what, pop up here, take my coat. Hey, everybody, take my stuff. So again, kind of a nice moment for Ion, but it's like, we don't need to do this for him again. Just let him learn from the last time it happened and be done.
It's also kind of funny because how it wraps later of he gives all this egregious stuff away.
And then Ollie wants a microscope.
And he's like, I have zero money.
Yeah.
Which is another thing of like, none of you work. Well, I guess that's not true. They all work at Buzz Blast, but it's like, hey, we can actually focus on being Rangers now that we found all this money.
I also found it odd that there was no point when any of them said, hey, should we find the rightful owner? Or I wonder if this is like from criminals.
No, so that's because it had been there so long. That's not a thing.
I understand. And I'm fine with that. But typically in Power Rangers, there'd be somebody say something about it. And it was just a non-issue, which
I think noticed. Pivoting that same logic, no one brought up, hey, what if we use this money for something else? He's literally standing there while he shoves it in a backpack going, I'm going shopping.
Yeah, well, he's angry. So they're like, well, I guess he's going to do some anger shopping.
But Chase, Javi's just standing there holding the briefcase, so he's loading it up. It's like, all right, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is weird. Because it's like, yeah, him and not Emilio, Green Ranger.
Yeah. Oh,
Green Ranger.
Izzy,
him and Izzy are fighting, and so they're being petty at finders, keepers, losers, weepers. But the rest of the team, including, humans on Earth and their alien leader, none of them were like, well, maybe we should all split it or do something good with it or give it to charity. They're all like, well, no, finders, keepers, sure. It's like, what? Yeah. Okay, I guess. And I understand that might be somewhat realistic, but these are supposed to be like aspirational, heroic characters that should not be. Well, Ion is not those things, so that's fine.
Yeah. This part was interesting where Zato's like, so we made an Ultrazord once, and it was bad. And we should not do that again.
And that's a callback. They've talked about that since the beginning. That's not new, so I like that. And I like that he's like, this is not a good idea. But then they address that issue. With this footage, I don't know how this worked in the Sentai. I don't know if this was actually a misfire or if this was like the final battle or whatever. But look at how like that gouge makes it look like they wiped out part of the planet. Like
I think they did.
His complaint was like it blew apart and some of my team was killed or missing. But I think you could also say we destroyed 3 states worth of people.
This was during that big Sporix fight, so like I'm gonna blame it on the Sporix, but we might have had a play in why Rafcon's not there anymore.
Yeah. The environment never recovered.
Literal scorched earth. So
yeah, but I love you, bro. I love not blowing up.
I do like how here Ollie's like, how did you guys not figure out how to fix this after like 65 million years? You're smart. Come on.
And they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Like, you just switch these 2 things around. Like, instead of putting a live flame next to the gas tank, why don't we just have it run in an engine? Oh, that's a good idea. I guess that'll work.
Yes.
Ninja Steel. So
it's not a Ninja Steel.
Yeah, it is. Izzy goes out and she's like, I'm going to take care of this mess because we need character resolution for this. Yeah. And then she goes out and finds out Ion's just Robin Hooding all of his material items he bought out of nowhere for no reason, and everything's gold.
I do like that. Like when they got there, he's like, "Oh, we need to deal with stuff." She's like, "We got bigger problems. Let's go." I like that because, like, yeah, maybe they do need to have a talk, but like, this is more important. So he's like, "Here's my key. We're gonna do this Primal Ultrazord stuff."
And no one gets mad at him anymore because they're just like, "You're the worst."
No, it's like, "Oh, good, he brought the key." That's what he's getting.
Exactly. They're like, "Just move out of the way." Can you morph and like transfer your power to us? Because that'd be a lot easier at this point.
I don't love the way the Primal Ultrazord looks, but that's not shocking because I rarely like the way the super heavy duty configuration modes look.
Yeah, I politely disagree, but that's because this thing is kind of my thing.
Yes, but also one of the things that a lot of these suffer from, including Battleizers, is the goofy feet. I'm trying to get to that without letting the footage really run.
Yeah. So aesthetically, I like it. Is it the best it could look? No. Those feet are egregious.
That's the worst part, is those feet.
Yeah.
Also very like red, white, and blue. We may have commented on this before, like just the color scheme in general is
so
oddly
pause American. Right here and leave this. So right here, I'm like, They just did the Ultra Zord, similar to when Zato got that Dragon Knight power. This is going to be cool.
Nope.
And then it quickly took
everything
took a
I
turn.
said about the Megazord kaiju fights up to this point stops being true here.
Here's my question, and answer in the comments what you guys think as well. What do you think was a harder turn of the wheel? Right when this fight starts, or when in the beginning of the episode, Izzy crashes her bicycle? None of this made sense to me.
I mean, it seems like, aside from just being powerful, they got the power of, I guess, super speed or teleportation. Because
But it looks weird.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's either super speed or teleportation. The fact that we don't know is kind of a problem. And I feel like they should have said, oh, we're going to move so fast. There'll be like, light, shadow, energy, just something. What are we seeing? And it's supposed to be super cool, but it's just confusing and weird. And sorry for the break and the fun, the interruption. I'm just hanging out here with the best Red Ranger, Casey from Jungle Fury, of course, to let you know that Action Activate has its own dedicated channel called Action Activate. There'll be a link below. There'll be a link at the end. Right now, we're putting everything on both channels, but that might change. We want that to change. We want this Gazbot channel to just be art and vlogs for me, which you can continue to follow, but all the Power Rangers, Toku, pop culture stuff is going to be migrated over to the Action Activate channel, which the Big Dog will have more access to, be able to post more, do more things, have a little more freedom. And in the short term, all the videos are going to go up there first. And they won't have these little commercials in the middle of them. And anything that isn't an interview or a direct Action Activate episode, any extra stuff is going to go on that channel too. So right now, for the next few weeks, you could still get everything on this channel. But the hope is that after a few weeks, everybody will migrate over and we'll stop reposting here. So please go do that now. Have fun back in the show. Let's see what Gazbot the Big Dog are up to. Going back to what I was saying before about the RAFCON flashback, this is one of the most destructive fights. They're literally knocking over buildings. Like they pick up the enemy and the sporks and swing it around into buildings and then throw it through like 5 mountains. And it's just like, they're just destroying. Yeah. Here's the part I was thinking about.
Everything.
Swing a dragon. That's a good look for us. Like what? Okay. I didn't quite get that. Oh, I love this for us. Yeah. So they're swinging it. Okay. They're so strong. We can swing it. And then I'm pretty sure they hit a building. Yep. They hit a bunch of buildings right there. So they just destroyed a bunch of buildings that didn't need to be destroyed. And this always happens a little bit, but it just seemed really egregious and gratuitous here. And then they throw it and it like flies through a bunch of mountains and then they
now we're underwater.
Oh, then we're underwater and then we go into space.
We're underwater. There's still sparks underwater.
And there's no bubbles or anything. Like clearly they're not really underwater because they're people in suits and stuff. I get that. But they could have put a wavery filter or some bubbles or a tint.
We've seen bad CGI before. Now's not the good time to skip out on it for story's sake.
Because I can live with the sparks underwater because you can have sparks underwater. You see people welding and stuff. If there's a gas line and that's hot enough, I don't know how it works, but you can have fire underwater.
Science has no meaning in this Megazord fight.
Yeah, but then he throws him into space, and they even say like, "Where am I?" And then here we go again with our weird effect. And then I love this because it reminds me of a subway map. You ever see a New York City subway map? It's like, that's what this makes me think of.
So this is one of those. I would have appreciated this finisher if this was like, we have the heart of the cards, and this is the end of the season.
Yeah, it's too soon.
You've now shown you should not fail at all anymore because you just launched something into the moon.
Well, they did, and that bothers me too.
Yeah,
and this is just ridiculous Sentai footage, so it probably shouldn't. But hitting the moon didn't bother me. But look, when they hit the moon, they're very big. The scale here is not good at all. Like that. I don't. Yeah, they should not be visible. No matter how, like they're the size of a building. We should not see them that big. And the crater they're making, that's like 5 or 10% of the surface of the moon. That
just got destroy the moon.
Right. Like permanently that's there. Is that going to affect the tides? I don't know. It just seems like, again, unrealistic.
And you see the cracks, and I'm assuming in the Sentai, the moon just explodes and they cut away.
Yeah, and then there's a spaceship underneath or something. It's Gurren Lagann. What are you going to do? But it was just very, it started off this episode. Well, let's get to the end. So then, and they're watching a video of themselves somehow. That's talk about a moon landing.
They're like, oh man, look at us. Look at us.
Is that? I guess that's the view from the cockpit, but then it's outside. How are they watching that? I don't know. How are they watching that?
Satellites? I don't know.
Yeah. Then they apologize to each other. I shouldn't have said those things to you. Yeah, me too. Whatever. Who cares? And then there's one thing though. I got you a new bike. No new microscope for you. Hey, let's go riding our bikes. The end. Okay.
I'm really sorry about it.
Yeah. Well, he learned puns. Great. Good. That's his character development. Yeah. Here's the thing. Coming into this, I'm like, I know I did not like the first part of the episode, but then I remember getting better. But I forgot that it then kind of gets worse again. So I feel like I'll break it into threes. The first third is bad in that stereotypical, boring Power Ranger missteppy way where it's kind of boring and who cares and whatever. It's just not good. Then the middle is good. There's some good fighting scenes. There's a little bit of development and some okay jokes and, whatever. And then the last third is not as bad as the first half because it's not boring. It's just cuckoo bananas, as Smash would say. It's like, what is happening? So it's this weird, like boring, regular good, and then just this is the final episode. What's happening? I don't understand. So yeah, that's how I sum it up.
To me, before we give scores,
yeah,
the question I ask you and the viewers is, how do you make an episode that has no bad Jane and Jayborg stuff and two Megazord fights, bad and boring?
Well, the first half was, there's boring, good and bad is the mix. So I don't know how the answer to that is it's disjointed. It feels like they're not connected. So I'm going to say part one is a D. Part two is like a B minus. Part three is a C.
I'm going to go. Part one is a D minus.
Yeah.
Part two is a C plus.
Mm-hmm.
Part three is a D plus. Put it all together, and I feel like this is a D.
I'm giving it a C minus because the middle's okay and the end wasn't boring. Boring is the worst thing you could be to me. Weird, wacky, not making sense. I could live with that, but boring is the worst thing you could be. And so the beginning was just boring. So that's like the unforgivable sin. But the rest of it, entertained me enough. So I'm giving it a C minus.
I'm giving it that because I expect better at this point.
Yeah, I mean, for where it is in the season, it's ridiculous. And now we have one episode left, and either it's going to be this crazy cliffhanger finale, mid-season thing, or because the way the behind-the-scenes stuff is nuts, it's just going to be another random episode. and I feel like that's more likely because it's been months since these have come out, and we're both involved in a lot of Power Ranger stuff, and it has not been spoiled for me. So if Lord Zed showed up or somebody died or anything crazy happened, we would have heard it by now. So last episode, I was kind of ready to be disappointed in this episode. And I kind of am ready to be disappointed next episode too, but it's going to be worse because this one could be a bit of a disappointment as long as the next one delivers.
If I'm even 70% as disappointed in the next episode as I was in this episode, I'm really feeling weary going into the second half.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to watch it and we're going to review it.
No, I know, but I don't remember the last time we felt like this.
It's weird because I keep thinking about the series as a whole, and I'm like, it's not a terrible, because we started reviewing officially with Beast Morphers. I think Beast Morphers is a better season. The end. Yep. But there are aspects of this season that I like better than Beast Morphers. Some of the individual characters, for example, I like better. The Zords, the costumes, I like better. But then I'm like, okay, well, Ninja Steel preceded it, and it's definitely better than Ninja Steel. And then I'm like, what is it? Where is it falling? And I keep coming back to it being kind of average, C-ish, but in a very inconsistent way. It's not well, this is a C season. It's no, some episodes are really good and some are really terrible and some are bad halfway through. And it's just this is what I would have expected from last season. When Hasbro was doing a hybrid season with Saban and kind of in the middle of a handoff, I would have expected it to be kind of uneven and haphazard.
Yeah.
And then Beast Morphers was a little bit more smooth considering, and I would have thought Beast Morphers would be the next one, which makes me think, again, this has been the rumor that's been going forever, that this will be the final season of Power Rangers as we know it. And more, it seems to be true. First of all, I mean, we've had people like Scott Zillner's no, definitely not. They're going to still use footage and not Power Rangers as we know it in this format. Not knowing anything and not even paying attention to what people are saying, it would make sense. because the toy distribution hasn't been great. They've left Nickelodeon. They're on Netflix. The creative team has said there's filler, and there's this weird imbalance and inconsistency that would make sense if they're just trying to get it done. And yeah, they don't want to be garbage, and they've got some money and some people in it that care about it, but really it just has to be finished, and it doesn't have to be good enough to make people want to watch the next season because we're done with this. It's kind of, so, and if it's not that, if there is another season, then I don't know what's going on, because how is it more disjointed and smooth than the transition season?
Like I said, I don't know if there's a person, if there's multiple,
makes sense.
Yeah, if there's multiple people that are in charge of all the things that we unfortunately don't like, but like, it doesn't make sense.
The Matt Moniker did some kind of breakdown in the comments of the last one, even though we didn't ask him to. But it was raw data. And so it needs to be collated, and I didn't collate it. So I still don't know the answer to that. So thank you for that raw data, but it didn't. And I'm not asking for it. Don't do more work, please. But I thank you for the work you did do. But I looked at it and I was sort of like, I can't stare at this anymore. Like my brain just got numb.
I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic for the second half. I have no expectations going into the next episode because I think it's just an episode they decided to cut it at an even number.
And people keep talking about the 30th anniversary, which it won't, like, I think some people are thinking it'll be the end of this series, but I think it's going to be its own thing, like a standalone or another series or whatever. It's going to be on Netflix. Maybe like the last 10 episodes or however many of this season are going to be fantastic. I hope they are. I want to enjoy them. But going back to Beast Morphers again, there were some clunkers in the beginning, but it arced better. And they were a little bit up and down, but it wasn't like, oh, it was kind of, and then at the very end, it was awesome. It was like, oh, it's getting better. It's getting better. It's getting better. Awesome. And I feel like if this gets awesome, the second half of the second season, that's what it's going to be, a more or less straight line that then gets good at the end, which is like, oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah. The other thing that I, keep looking back at Beast Morphers and maybe fairly or unfairly comparing it is like, by the end of Beast Morphers, there weren't any primary protagonists that I actively didn't like. There are some that I liked more than others, but even by the end, I was like, Ravi's all right with me now.
Yeah.
And I had if you guys want to go back and see a snapshot in time, there were a bunch
of good character development. That was good character. Unlike Ion, where like, I guess maybe they're going to continue to try to redeem him and make him awesome as we go into the end, or they're like, again, this is just who he is. He's this goofball kind of big kid, and that's just who he is, and he'll never evolve past that.
Yeah, I think if he was like the lone like ranger out of time, I think it'd be a little bit easier. But because
we did it before, because looking at Zato, it's like
night and day. You're like, what?
You're from the same planet. You were on the same team. It's like, it's not like, well, he was from the other side of the planet and he worked as a farmer. I was a soldier. Like they were on the same team together. Like, it's going to be an uphill battle to save this show. Like, not save it. Like, again, it's not the worst show. I think it falls very middle of the pack, but to make it be more than that, and especially if it's the final season, that's rough.
Yeah. There's too much shrugging that we've been doing this season 2.
I really hope this isn't the last season. Like, I feel like it probably is, but because I'm thinking like the first final season was in space and it wasn't the end, but what a good season to end on. Then the second final season was RPM. It wasn't the final season, but what a good season to end on. And then Beast Morphers wasn't the final season, but what a good season to end on. And so if we end on this one and it doesn't do something to redeem itself, it's going to be just kind of a bummer that we had these.
Next episode when we review, I want to dive into more like what plot threads are still open that we want resolved before the end. And I have a feeling like maybe
put that in the comments too, because you guys might be thinking of ones that we're not. So if there's plot threads or things that need to be addressed before the end, let us know.
Like the first thing I think of is Lord Zed, where it's like that once.
Well, no, that's definitely. I'm so sure that's coming back. Like, there's no way that's not, because if he was destroyed, as they say, or killed, okay, fine. It's a little bit of a wasted cameo, but no, but he left at the end, remember? And he's like, you haven't seen the last, like he literally did like, I'll be back, like.
You mean like the Morphin Masters or the Ninja Star or Mick or.
Out of all of those things, The only one that is unforgivable is Lord Zed, because the Morphin Masters work in mysterious ways. They didn't say they'd be back. They were sort of there and like, okay, that might have been their one big intervention, and they're now watching from another dimension. The Ninja Star is doing some mysterious mission. Maybe it's just doing its own thing and it'll show up in another season and be part of the mythology. Mick was like, yeah, I'll see you around, but he meant in a friendly way. Like all of these things, yes, I would like to be readdressed. Lord Zed is the only one that's like, I'm a villain. I hate Power Rangers. I'm going to get my revenge, and I'm still around. You'll see me again. So if he doesn't, he's the only one that like made a promise to come back. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, and the only one that I couldn't forgive if he didn't come back. That would be just ridiculously bad.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious how that goes, and I'm curious what happens with Void Knight, because I don't think he's going to stay in that pod forever.
No, me either.
But since I did the intro, you first.
Maybe Lord Zed teams up with Void Knight and breaks.
No, I think it'll be a thing. Void Knight breaks out. There is a void literally in the bad guys. Zed goes in. Void Knight joins the Rangers officially, and then we have a little bit of.
Well, I don't think I didn't mean that Void Knight would become evil again. I thought maybe there'd be some sort of uneasy alliance for a minute. You know what I mean, between the two of them.
No, I don't think so. I did the intro, so I'm doing the outro. I have been the Big Dawg Defender.
I continue to be Gazbot.
And
to the power.
See you guys later. End credits.
I was waiting for you to say that.
I'm going to start talking on the end credits because I do that first every time.
I thought usually you do it first.
I honestly don't know.
So,
we both end up doing it as the thing.
So next week will be the final Dino Fury. And then we might have to miss a week. And then whether we miss a week or not, after Dino Fury, Bloodline of the Grid episode 2 is going to premiere. So let's keep talking for a minute after this is over. I'll say that. Yeah. I'll repeat that in case it was unclear. Next week, we're going to do the final episode of Dino Fury for this half of the season. The next episode we do will be Bloodlines of the Grid episode 2, which is dropping this weekend, by the way, if you didn't know. We may have to take a break in between for a week. We'll let you know. After those 2 episodes, we're back to hiatus time. So if there are topics you want us to do, let us know. If you want a live Q&A, let us know. If you want to get back into the what season should we review thing, we could do that. I feel like every time we do that, then we're not able to do it. So put whatever you want, but just know that in 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be in hiatus mode and be open to ideas of things.
Yeah.
You might want
if you want us to talk toys again, comics, movies, TV, Power Rangers, Toku in general.
And that's for the official Action Activate once a week show that we do together. But the whole idea of this individual channel, as you've seen a little bit already, as I post up that one little blooper thing we did, hopefully the 2 of us will on occasion just throw stuff up. Hey, look, I saw Power Ranger at Targets, or hey, I was thinking about this comic, or just like whatever things that might be relevant we might throw up too. So even if it's just like, hey, can the Big Dog show us his Power Ranger comic collection? Or hey, can Gazbot, show us that helmet on the wall behind him? Anything like that we could just throw up real quick. Won't be in like a big official production, but we might start doing more things like that. So if you have any requests for that, let us know too. And get to 100 subs and win a prize. Goodbye.
Later.